What's up, everybody? Evo just ended, largest tournament of all time. Very. I have like. I'm rather unsettled still in terms of what I think after the tournament. I know that a lot of people um, requested a Tafo talk today, so I rushed home. I drove about 6 hours to get here in time, and I did limited prep, so it's probably not going to be as clean as my other Tafo talks, where I might just do some brainstorming of what I would say. So the reason why I'm unsettled was because the top 32, by virtue of the fact that it was top 8, or top 32 was best of 3. I thought that created a very great tournament in terms of viewership. We had a lot of great matches that went to the brink of Game 3, which frankly, it probably wouldn't have had as much drama or attention if we were a best of 5. So, for example, with PPMD versus the Hugs going to last stock, that would have carried a lot less weight if that was a best of 5, where I'm pretty sure PP would have probably won 3-1 if we continued another match. Club Mango, Hungry Box Leffen, SVAT PP, just for the fact that it was top best of 3 made it a lot more exciting. So from a spectator standpoint, there are some benefits from best of 3. The idea of there being potential upsets and the fact that people have to be more on board and every stock matters more, does create actually a more exciting experience for the spectator. Now for the player, when you have less games and you have less play, there's always going to be more variance, and that's something that was a lot more apparent in the top 8, where Hungry Box won given the tournament conditions against Mango, so I'm not going to take away anything from Hungry Box for his wins over Leffen, PPMD, and Mango. PPMD was a best of 5, so I don't really see that as taking away. In a best of 5, I thought Mango probably would have brought it back, but since the tournament was best of 3, that was the conditions that were given. So, understandably, a lot of people were disappointed that most of top 8 was best of 3. Given time constraints and the fact that Evo already gives us an additional hour, I can understand where they're coming from with it, because I believe we went about like 2 hours and 45 minutes, even with mostly best of 3s, and most other games go within a 2-hour window. Now, with that being said, I would love to see more best of 5s in a tournament that's exclusively catered towards Smash. So Big House, Super Smash Con, those type of tournaments where we're not really sharing the stage with other games. I totally would like to see best of 5, even all the way down to top 32, if it's possible. So that's my thoughts on that. One of the interesting topics that I just want to go through just the players and what I really thought about it. I guess some other things like Evo hitting 200k was really exciting. The montages and just being there was really awesome. 3rd year in a row. The first question, after thinking about it a little bit in the car, I'm going to have to probably create a separate video on this, is you look at Armada and Mango's modern day legacies, and Mango's boast was that Mango has won 2 Evos where Armada hasn't. And so Armada, after returning back in 2013, has pretty much choked at most large tournaments, always getting second. He's like the third place king. But if you look at it, he's won a Genesis, he's won one CEO, 2 Apexes, and now an Evo. And that's something Armada has over Mango. Mango has not won a CEO, and he has not won an Apex. And Mango, granted, has won multiple pounds. He's won a Big House. He's won a couple of Evos. He's also won a Genesis of his own. So the fact that Armada, won Evo and Mango didn't do so well, it's kind of like the reverse of last year, where Hungry Box, being the blue shell, eliminates one of the top players, and it indirectly makes us miss a lot of potential great matchups that were to be had. But the legacies are interesting. I'm going to have to do more research, but it does beg to question, well, I think with this Evo win, Armada and Ken, if you were to look at their legacies, it actually gets a lot closer. Originally, I had Ken above Armada in terms of sheer legacy of their careers. But now that Armada's won an Evo, I think I lean towards Armada. And when we compare Armada and Mango's accomplishments, it's actually really close. And so it's an interesting point of discussion. I don't have any conclusions until I do more research and put more thought into it. But the notion of whose career is greater of BOAT versus GOAT is actually now becoming a more interesting debate. Whereas prior to this win, I would have easily given it to Mango, but now there could be discussions and arguments for both. So moving down the list, PPMD. I kind of figured that an extended break was eventually going to cost him, and it did. So that's why I was really hesitant to say like PP was going to outright win. A lot of people really gave me flack for it, but I was really thinking about it throughout the weekend, and I wondered, we didn't really see the possibility of PPMD really playing Hungrybox because we all assumed that Hungrybox was going to lose to Leffen, and so it never really crossed anybody's mind, well, what would happen if PP had to play Hungrybox, something that has not happened for a year since last year's Evo? Like, would PPMD be able to deal with Hungrybox's updated technology that he's learned over a year? Because you can theory craft matches like Fox, Falco, Marth, there's roughly the same kid, and you can watch a lot of matches to observe what's really going to go on, how are they going to react to things. But with a Puff, no one really plays Puff at a high level other than Hungrybox. So even if you study a player and you come up with game plan, you don't know if Hungrybox or a player already has a counter game plan to what is perceived to be the counter plan to what everybody else sees. So basically, is Hungrybox a step ahead to whatever PPMD theory crafts? And frankly, I don't think PPMD also really prepared for Hungrybox. I think he was really expecting the Mango into Leffen Armada bracket, and so he was probably preparing a lot more for those matches as opposed to Hungrybox. So to be honest, the more I think about it, I'm not surprised that Hungrybox 3-0'd PP, and it was rather clean. The interesting thing about PP is I feel that this is one of those events where Armada prepared better than PP for the matchup. So Armada in the matchup in winners finals, it was, PP played decently, but Armada had a lot of things to counter PP's dash dance game. So one of the things that you should really notice is the use of down tilt by Armada to stop PP's dash dance game, and the liberal use of Armada's dash attack to catch the fade back. So Armada looked like he was really well prepared to handle both of PP's characters. And PP played well, but I think the story of that match in winners finals was more that Armada's punish game was just insane. Whenever PP was on a platform, Armada correctly reacted with up air into back air into a bunch of zero to deaths. So a huge difference between Apex 2015, where I felt Armada's punish game wasn't as well defined and wasn't as flowcharty or optimized as it could be. You could see it very easily that Armada is significantly better at Evo at dealing with punishing Marth and dealing with the dash dance game. I think he had PP covered. Mango, for Mango, it was pretty depressing to watch as a friend of Mango. I had drinks with him after the tournament. We just went straight to the bar and we just started chatting, and I'm not sure if you can take it or leave it. I heard a few sniffles from being next to Mango. Don't really ever see him sniffling, so maybe he has a cold or something, but it was really heartbreaking. But I think this goes to show, this is kind of I think he had it coming to him. I feel like Mango's a kid that went through high school and he didn't have to study. He could just walk into an exam and just go with it. And then he goes into a college level course, let's say it's an engineering class, thinks he could do the same habits, and then he goes in and gets wrecked. So I think really, Mango used to have fun, not rest well, do other things to and like other things to like other than like not preparing for melee. And so day 1 and day 2 he's usually on a subpar game, but because he lost the plot, that changed so much, and he can't really expect at this point to really walk in and just say, I'm gonna win this and I'm the GOAT and I'm gonna go through losers bracket and beat everybody, because you need every little edge you can get, and to start off in losers is just too much of a handicap to overcome. It's not to say that Mango couldn't do it. We can look back and say, well, like Mango just SD twice. I mean, there were just 2 minor flubs that probably made the difference between him winning against Hungrybox and him losing. And maybe, in an alternate universe, shouts at Esports Express, Mango does win the tournament and he does an SDI. But for the fact that he doesn't have a buffer zone anymore, means that he's really going to have to, push every advantage he has, and he can't be complacent anymore. And I think this is going to be a big wake-up call, where either Mango, goes into full force for whatever the next big nationals or whatever events come before Evo, or if, he settles down and says, hey, like, I made my run, I did my 2 Evos, I'm not really for Melee anymore, and I'm going to move on to other things. Maybe he'll play at a top 5, top 6 level, but maybe he's not going to put in the full effort to maintain being the best. And there is a huge difference between the level of effort that you have to put in to be a top 8 finisher as opposed to being a threat to win the whole thing or be a very big favorite. Mango could honestly coast and he could keep getting 4th, 5th, 3rd, and maybe win here and there, but if he wants to be the outright favorite, he's going to have to put in a lot more work. For Leffen, it's interesting because I actually, not a lot of you guys watched the Thursday show, but I kind of anticipated that Leffen was going to choke. The Evo ambiance is just a killer to be there. I think there's a lot more pressure, and I think every big player has to get battle tested once in a top 8 situation before they win. I think everybody chokes the first couple of times and then you get used to it. And so I'm not terribly surprised at Leffen getting 5th. It happened slightly different than I imagined. I picked Hungrybox as a slight underdog against Leffen, and Leffen didn't really know what to do against Samus, so kudos to him. He doesn't know a matchup and he got punished for it. Not too much to say about that. I think a lot of people are, if I were to take a step back a bit, I think a little, based on like a series of results in a best of 3, I think a lot of people are taking what happened at this event a little bit too far. So Leffen is still really good. He's still going to be a favorite to win almost any event, and I don't think you could write him off that easily. Armada had a pretty good run, but I wouldn't say he's invincible. Mango was 2 SDs away from making it to Plup, and things could have happened. Little things happen, and there's variance in the game, especially with best of 3, that a 50-50 can easily swing the other way and change momentum and change what happens at a tournament. One other example I can give is what if Shroomed hit those tech chases against Javi, who he had 3 chances against. If he won that, he would have played PPU next, and then he probably would have won that and got 9th place. And instead, he went the other route and got 25th. And so it's really punishing, actually, and that's why you look at the results of Evo, even not just in Melee, but you look at it in terms of Marvel and Street Fighter. Players that are household names for top 8 or potential threats to win could get 49th one year in Street Fighter, and that's how crazy variance can be and how much it could kick you in the butt. If further go down the list, there are some other things. So I talk about Leffen and how everybody needs that experience to deal with high pressure moments, and that's something Granted, Leffen is very familiar with Armada, so I don't think the pressure would get to him because he can realize, okay, this is what I do against Armada's Fox, this is what I do against Armada's Peach. It's second nature to him. But I feel that if he's in an unfamiliar territory and he does something wrong, or he is unfamiliar with something and the crowd is there and the weight of the pressure is there, I think he still crumbles. But this is also interesting because this is why I think the old school players do really well here. So We saw a lot of old school players do really well. So Chu, Hugs, Ken, and Azen. So Chu got 7th, Hugs got 9th, Ken got 13th, and Azen got 33rd. And they all carry the veteran experience. Hugs choked a couple of sets, which was really heartbreaking. But you look at Chu and Ken, for example, they've been on the big stage at MLG for years, and they're used to pressure. They're not gonna choke. And so for them, you have to beat them out of their 4 stocks, and that's a unique characteristic to them that I don't really see in a lot of top 15, top 20 players. Where if I were to give, a rating of some sort for poise and confidence and the ability to not choke, I would not put players like Lucky, SFAT, Ice on that level of confidence like Chu and Ken and Azen, who, they're not as skillful, but they're not going to choke as much. And in a best of 3, a lot of it really does come down to who chokes less and who doesn't let the mindset of, oh crap, I'm gonna lose, or oh crap, and let distractions get them distracted from the game. And so that's and so I was actually, so even then, I'm not gonna say I predicted that Chu was gonna get 7th or Ken was gonna get 13th, and they did very well. They beat a lot of great players, and so I have to give kudos to them. I don't think anybody really expected, any of them to place as high as they did. I bet, nobody predicted Hugs to get 9th, to be 1 hit away from beating PPMD. No one expected Chu to run a gauntlet against players like Silent Wolf, West Balls, Kirby Kaze. Nobody expected Ken to beat West Balls in a really dominating fashion. Nobody thought Azen was going to beat Fly, and so I have to give them their props. They did very well. So in terms of top 5, I'm going to have to really think about it. I still give Armada number 1, but Hungry Box comes back into the picture once again. He had another fantastic Evo. And if I really think about it, Hungry Box has had a lot of losses to Plup and Lucky, Koble, mid-tier, second-tier spacies quite often. But I look at his performances, in 2015, and it actually rivals Mango. And I'm going to have to do more research, but I think Hungry Box actually may have a better 2015 than Mango so far, which is actually crazy considering that we've been through half a year of large tournaments. And granted, Hungry Box, has had a season where he got bopped, but Hungry Box has beaten Leffen, he's beaten Armada, so Hungry Box technically, is a threat to almost anybody, which is actually a huge development in terms of, who's relevant to win a national, or who can, take on Armada and take sets, or who can take sets off of Mango. Although I still think it was kind of fluky the way it happened against Mango, but you have to put Hungry Box back in the equation here. And then there's PPMD. If I were to, do a gunshot poll, I would probably say Armada 1, Leffen 2, Mango 3, Hungry Box 4, PPMD 5. That's probably where I put it. And I put PPMD low because I wasn't very impressed in his Evo bracket. Takes SFAT to best of 3, barely beats Hugs, and then he, beats Plup, which is a pretty good win. And then he gets 3-0'd pretty convincingly by Armada and Hungry Box. So just given the fact that he's taken a long break, and I wasn't generally impressed with PPMD's performance, considering that people were putting him as high as number 1. I don't think he deserves it until I see more results from him. And I think a lot of people gave him the benefit of the doubt to say, well, look at PP's Apex performance. But now I say PP's performance at Apex was 6 months ago, and we haven't seen anything else to give relevant data. If he disappears for 5 months, he could either get 5th or he can, get 1st. It's not a definite either way. Of course, it could be shuffled, and you guys could debate that. I'm not saying it's definitive. I would have to put a lot more thought into it. Mewtwo King, I don't know where to place him. But if we're to look at the next tier, I think it's very safe to say that Plup and Axe are up there. And I think the way that I look at it is, if you want to look at who should be around the 6th, 7th, or the next tier, ask yourself this question, like, in terms of top 8, like, we have like a slew of like 10 to 15 people that could like fill up the remaining spots of the top 8 that aren't like the household names of like Mango, Leffen, let's see, the usual Mango, Leffen, Armada, H-Box, PP, Muji King if he goes. Think about who can fill up those remaining spots and how you react to it. So if I said to you at a random tournament that everybody was in, hey, Shroom made top 8, you'd be like, oh, okay, like, I'm not surprised. If I said, oh, Axe made top 8, you wouldn't be surprised by that. If I told you, oh, hey, Axe got 5th at EVO, you'd be like, wow, Axe played well, but I'm not really surprised. Axe is good. Now, let's translate that. And if I said SFAT got 5th, or SFAT got top 8 at EVO, we would say, wow, SFAT must have been playing amazing. Like, I totally did not expect that. And there's a difference, whether or not you believe it. And that's the way that I've been thought experimenting it, is how surprised would you be at certain levels of placings for that person? And how surprised would you be if they placed, like, really low? And that should give you a good gauge of who should be 7th, 8th, 9th. So if I told you, like, with CEO in mind and, like, his performances against Hungrybox, let's ignore EVO for a moment. If I said, hey, Plup got top 8, you probably wouldn't be that surprised. You'd be like, okay, like, yeah, Plup's been really good. He has a fantastic Sheik. I can see that happening. And even after EVO, it's like, oh, hey, Plup got 5th. Plup got 4th. It's like, oh, wow, that was amazing. Like, I can see that for Plup. So with that logic, I put Plup at 6th or 7th, depending on where you put Muji King. If we were to ignore Muji King out of these rankings, I would give Plup 6 right now. I think he really deserves it. Got 4th at EVO. Was one hit away from Leffen and Mango at CEO. And I have to be really careful because, we've had so many flashes in the pan in the past. Coincidentally, this might be a contradictory statement based on, like, the performances, but we look at Javi, like, in Apex, we said, wow, like, Javi is top 5 in the world after he beat PP, and then we saw him next year, like, not do so well. So I have to be very careful with the flash in the pan players where after one tournament, we, like, significantly overrate them. Shouts to Keizu. Or shots fired to Keizu for dominating Big House right before SSBM ranked 2015 or 14. But one tournament should not be the indicator, but I feel that Plup has done enough to say, like, hey, like, I think, like, after, like, the 6 or 7 players, like, maybe you could toss an Axe there too, but, like, Plup deserves to be in that tier. And he could be argued, roughly in that place with of, like, Muji King, like the Muji King level tier, where he could be argued for 6 even. I wouldn't be against that notion. And Axe, perennial top 8 threat. Nobody's surprised that he won. That he got top 8. He's a really impressive player. He bounced back after he lost to Hugs. Yeah, I mean, and then took Leffen to game 3. Can show that he can compete and has that upset potential. So, yeah, I would say Plup and Axe. If we're ignoring Muji King out of the rankings, because I don't know where to put him, Plup and Axe deserve 6 and 7, whatever order you want to put him in. And then you look at the rest. To be honest, there were a lot of disappointing performances here. West Bulls, in West Bulls fashion, lost to Ken and Shudad. And in 2005, those would have been acceptable losses. But this is 2015, where if you want to be top 10, you're supposed to not lose to them. So West Bulls, I respect his gameplay. He is a monster at regionals, but for some reason he can't put it together for nationals or for EVOs and Apexes. So he got 13th this year, losing to Ken and Chu, which you could say he's playing bad, but this is the 3rd straight EVO where he's losing to players that he shouldn't be losing to. And at Apex, it's been the same way, where we have him in like 8th or 9th place overall as like. If you were to rank like West Bulls prior to EVO, you probably would have given him top 10 easily, and I would definitely agree. On his peak form, he can easily, beat. He has upset potential against players like Mango and Hungry Box, and he can beat Axe regularly. He's taken sets off of Club. And so, but he hasn't shown at Nationals, and I value Nationals very much. But with all that said and done, like, at the next tournament, like, I would still give West Bulls a high seed just based on the potential that he can be monstrous. But it's very disappointing to see West Bulls to continue to flounder at Evos and Apexes. You can look up his results. I don't remember his Apexes offhand, but Evos, he's gone 17th, 13th, and 13th, which, and it's not to throw shade at West Bulls, it's just I put him on a higher standard. And then I want to just talk about some other people that went really under the radar. So, I think Ice is really good. I think, he quietly lost to Leffen for 9th place, which is, tragic. Loses to Mango and loses to Leffen for 9th is actually, like, really rough. So, Ice, the more I see him, the more I think about it, he's losing less and less to gimmicky matchups and unusual characters. We all make fun of him for losing to Soft, but that was almost a year and a half ago at Apex 2014. But I think Ice needs to be put in the discussion of maybe he's not in the single digits, but at least on the edge of top 10. I think he needs to be considered. PPU, as much as people have gone on the other side of the spectrum and said that PPU is overrated, this guy has gone 9th at 5 Super Nationals in a row. He lost to Axe and he lost to Armada. I mean, I don't really consider those bad losses, and he keeps turning out 9th place finishes. And so I think, just on raw consistency, he needs to be in the discussion for top 10 as well. Some people that, went off the radar that, due to a mix of reasons, I found to be a little bit disappointed in, Shroomed. I gotta actually look up if there's a curse if you sign with a new team. I remember somebody mentioned that whenever somebody signs up with a new team, they tend to do poorly at their next tournament. So maybe that's the curse of being signed onto a new team. So Shroom lost to Santi and Javi. I don't think Javi's a bad loss, to be honest, but definitely sloppy play by Shroom's end, and gets 25th, which is something that we don't expect from Shroomed. Kirby Kaze completely drowned in the pool of Sheiks. I believe he lost to Swedish Delight and he lost to Chudat. So that shows that KK has a decent amount of holes that he needs to fix. Lost to Kira before in Sheik Dittos. So I think overall very unfortunate bracket for KK in terms of the matchups he wanted. He definitely did not want to see Ice Climbers and Sheik Dittos. And that actually brings up another point, is that bracket luck actually matters so much in Evo, where avoiding your weak matchups or avoiding a player or having an easy bracket could easily swing your results. So Zoo lost to Lucky and Leffen for 33rd. And if you look at other sides of their bracket, I forgot who, but somebody had to just beat Vish to get out of pools into top 32. So I think that's one thing that people forget when they look at placements, is that with something as big as Evo, you're going to have upsets and lopsided brackets where, if you compound that with random upsets, like some people will have a really easy route into top 32 or top 8. And frankly, like, PPMD had Axe, but instead he had Hugs. No shade on Hugs, but I think PP had an easy route to top 8 because of upsets. I think, I look at Reno, no offense to him, he actually beat me, but he didn't have to beat anyone substantial to get into top 32. You look at people who lost in 49th and 65th, they had really tough brackets and that were much harder than Reno's, and their placings are going to show up as, well, they got 97th or they got 65th. It's like, oh wow, they must suck. It's like, well, no, like, you got to look at the brackets for that reason. Amsa actually, like, killed a bunch of people's brackets because he lost early to Light in Arizona Peach, old school. And as a result, a bunch of players ended up falling short because they had to play AMSA early. Kage, Blayajello, like all of them had to play AMSA a lot earlier than they should have. But I'm actually really surprised. So AMSA, I probably overrated him a bit. Lost to Light, lost to Hacks. Still a really great player. Probably not as good as I originally thought. But I still think he's really good. So it'll be interesting. We have Super Smash Con coming up. I don't really know. I don't really know who's going to that. There's like about 400 people that have been regged. I'm not sure if that's more casual Nintendo fans that are going to the event to pay fan service or how many actual tournament goers are going. In the upcoming season, the next big thing to look for is Big House. I'm not sure of the creative storylines we have here. Armada probably seems really happy with that Evo trophy. I'm not sure if Mango's going to bounce back. Hungrybox is having a job. Mewtwo King's hand's hurt. PBMD said that he'll come back, but I still have my reservations. And Leffen's Leffen. He's gonna, he's more motivated than ever. I see a lot of fire in him. So this might actually be a year where Sweden actually wins every national, as crazy as that sounds. But hopefully somebody steps it up by Big House by then. Anyway, that's all I have for Evo.